My name is Blake, and this is my story. Grew up in a very typical American home with both parents. My dad worked a lot. He was gone at work. I'd see him in the morning, I'd see him at night. Mom was always around. I have an older brother and a younger sister. And my dream was always to play something professional. I idolized professional athletes. I thought about the amazing amount of money that they made. I wanted to be famous. And so I just really focused on sports. My mom got me involved at a very young age, playing everything: baseball, soccer, football. Sports was everything about my life. Junior high, high school, elementary, friends, everything revolved around watching sports, playing sports, especially baseball. Going into high school, I remember being very involved outside of sports, and my parents wanted me to go to a youth group. My experience with what could have been God, what could have been good examples, what could have been faith, or any of those things, was what I thought I was getting into. But I got into a very perturbed, very difficult example of what a youth group was. But I remember thinking back later, I don't ever remember hearing anything spiritual or anything about God, which I thought was kind of weird at a youth group. So I got to become more friends with the youth leader. And during these things going on at church, there was a lot of opportunities to meet girls. And I began to kind of explore messing around with girls at a young age in church. And that kind of opened up a door to me. And some of my friends began to share pornography with me. And I remember in my early years of high school getting very, very involved in pornography and partying and drinking. I had a horrible freshman year. I hung out with a lot of seniors in high school, got drunk a lot, and did a lot of things that I wish I wouldn't have done, a lot of things I can't even remember. This man, who was my youth leader, began to share with me his talent and his love for basketball. He came into my life at a time when my father wasn't there. My father was working. I didn't have any other men in my life that were really speaking into my life, and so I really looked up to this man, admired him, and he took a lot of time with me. Between my freshman and sophomore year, I really started liking basketball. Between my freshman year, sophomore year, I grew a foot. I was 5'4", and I literally stretched into 6'4" over the summer. And so basketball made more sense even then, and so this man, this youth leader, Stan, would take me out every single day of my summer year between freshman and sophomore year and work with me in basketball for like 2 or 3 hours. And I really, really got good at basketball. But there was something missing in my life. I knew there was something missing, and I was searching. I was searching for something. And part of my story as well is when I was young, actually a baby, even before I was born, my mother told me my whole life that a man of God had spoken over my life, that I was going to do things for God. So it was always in the back of my mind because she was always reminding me of that. So my sophomore year, coming out of baseball, I began to have pro scouts look at me. I began to, going into my junior year, have scholarship offers for baseball and basketball. And so everything was good. Going into my senior year is when things really, really fell apart in my life. This man, Stan, who would be at my summer league games, and I loved him so much and admired him so much and appreciated him so much. And going into my senior year in October, just a few weeks before my last season, 25 D1 scholarship offers, colleges looking at me, all the lights. I remember getting interviewed. On a Sunday evening, we got a call, and Stan, my youth leader, wrote a suicide note and took his life. He shot himself in the head. This is 30-something years later. Yeah, it still hurts. I still remember it like it was yesterday. Just my world crumbling on me. And I remember going through my senior year almost like a zombie. I remember this moment right here with lights right before my first game of my senior season. They were interviewing me. You're gonna have a great year. All these colleges are looking at you. And I just remember looking up over at the stands. And my grandparents were there, my parents were there. Everybody that loved me was there, but he wasn't. Wore a patch on our uniform, all my teammates wore one. And so that was one of the lowest points of my life. It really caused me just to dive even more into searching for that thing that I was looking for in women. I became more of a womanizer, more of a partier. I was very popular. Game was over. Blake, where's the party at? And so I just kind of submerged myself in women, parties, being popular, just getting attention, and kind of went through my senior year that way. After my senior year, another crazy thing happened to me. Looking back now that I know God was ordaining then, I didn't understand at the time. My SATs were coming up in April, and you have to have, obviously, an SAT score to go into Division I basketball. And the actual day that I was supposed to take my test, April 10th, my grandma passed away. So I missed my SATs. D1 schools were out the door. Now I have to go a different route. Now I got to go junior college. And so I'm still hanging on to my dream. I want to play professional basketball. I want to play professional baseball. And so I accept a scholarship to go to a junior college in Tucson called Pima College. So I stayed home. I didn't go to a college outside of town. So I'm living with my parents still, save money. And my dad did something that was very amazing as I look back and really life-changing for me. He made a statement to me, he said, Blake, you're gonna live at home, we'll pay all the bills, but you're under our roof, and as long as you're under our roof, you're gonna go to church. And interestingly enough, in October, again, on October 4th of 1992, a year later after Stan takes his life, I get out of practice, and there's a revival happening at our church. I'm sitting all the way in the back of the service. I've got my arms crossed. I've got sunglasses on. I'm being a rebellious punk, looking at my watch, just waiting for the service to get over. But God had it ordained that the person that was preaching was somebody that I did know. I knew of him. He was a younger person. And at one moment, just like these lights are on me right now, I felt like a spotlight came on me. He was describing hell so vividly, so real. And as I said earlier, I had always heard my mom tell me, you're called by God. God's got a plan for your life. You're gonna touch nations. You're gonna touch people's lives. All these things began to come back to me. And as he's describing this place, I heard God's voice for the first time. I heard it so clear. All those times that I had felt his presence and felt like there was something missing. He says, Blake, that place that he's describing is where you're gonna spend eternity if you don't change your life tonight. Like I knew in my spirit, it wasn't tomorrow, it wasn't next week, it was now. I just know that he told me and I heard it, not an audible voice, but in my spirit. And I literally got up before the service was over and I went to the altar. And I just got on my knees and I just started crying. And I just started saying, God, I'm sorry. It was a little after 9 when I got to that altar. And when I got up from praying, it was after midnight. I was literally at that altar for 3 hours. And nobody was left in the church except my parents, the pastor, and the evangelist. And I got up and I looked at him and I said, I'm not the same person. And God has asked me to preach his gospel and tell people about him. And Jesus said, I want you to tell people what I've done for you, what I've saved you from. I want you to leave your dream and I want you to preach the gospel and I want you to leave basketball. And it was like so clear for me. So like my entire life changed in 3 hours because my dreams of professional basketball, and it wasn't even like, let me think about, I knew I had to do it. And that next day I went and told my coach, I'm leaving basketball to go into the ministry and to preach Jesus. Just a few months after I got saved, my aunt and uncle just happened to be in Tucson, Arizona on a Sunday morning while the pastor's son, who happened to be the brother of the one who committed suicide, was telling the church that he wanted to go to Costa Rica to learn Spanish. And my mama and papa came up to me. They were in the church that service that day, and they just happened to be there that day. And they said, we feel like God wants you to go to Costa Rica to learn Spanish. And if you want to go, we'll write a check out right now. And I had no intentions of praying about it. I didn't want to go learn Spanish. I didn't want to go leave the country. But within a few hours, I knew that that's what God wanted me to do because I knew his voice now. And just a few months after I gave my life to the Lord, I was in another country, in Costa Rica, learning Spanish. And that's where I ended up meeting my wife a month later at a church. We've been married now for 30 years. She's been my greatest partner in the ministry. At 23 years old, we were here in Denton, Texas, where we are now. And my wife, we were married like 5 years, and my daughter was 3, and my wife was pregnant with my other daughter, Destiny. And we were in a church not very far from here, and I was the assistant pastor, and I was serving, helping. This pastor that was pastoring the church ended up having an affair and committing adultery with the youth pastor's wife. But in that moment, God began to use me to heal this church. And looking back, it was a very amazing temptation because the church was very well off financially. The pastor had a good salary. There was a lot of really good things in the church. But 2 weeks before, God had spoken to me to go to Costa Rica to be a missionary. The deacons and the board of the church said, "You're doing such a good job with the church." And I said no, and I left to go to Costa Rica. And took $10,000 of my own money, and we started a ministry down there. That was a pivotal part of my life because, again, you've got the permissible and the perfect will of God. But God spoke to me many years later that I have nations for you. And because I went to Costa Rica, we have 3 churches in Costa Rica. We've planted a church in Nicaragua. We've been able to plant a church in Tanzania. We have 6 churches here in the Metroplex. And I've become a part of a fellowship of churches that reaches churches all around the world, the Congo, Czech Republic, and Slovakia, and Mexico, and Cuba. And so, again, it goes back to like God saying, here's something you can do, or if you'll really trust me, here's something better. In Costa Rica, we're missionaries now, and just doing what God called us to do. And I hadn't touched a basketball in like 5 years. Someone I met was like, "Hey, come play basketball with us." So I went and played a pickup game, and it was like riding a bike, you know. It just felt good. I was shooting good and playing good, and it just all came back to me. And I'm 27, which in sports is old, kind of. So I found out there was an agent for a professional team in Costa Rica. So this guy comes up to me and says, "Hey, you want to play professional basketball here in Costa Rica?" And I'm like, the only thing I think of is, wow, God, is this real? And you give me an opportunity to get my dream back. And sure enough, I signed with them. I ended up playing 5 seasons, different teams. And my last 2 seasons, I played with the best team in the country, with the most money. I got to meet so many guys that I was able to share my faith with. Psalms 37:4 says, "Delight yourself in the Lord. He gives you the desires of your heart." And I've seen that for the last 32 years of my life. It's just amazing how God asks you for something, and it's like he's got something behind his back that's way better than what he's asking for you to give up. But you'll never know that until you give up what he's asking you to give up. He's shown me so much beauty and so much amazing things since. I have 2 beautiful daughters who serve in the ministry with me, 2 son-in-laws, 4 grandchildren. I think I'm the most blessed man in the world.